Hello, everyone. This is Keith F. Shovlin, the son of Swift, here to bring you our genealogical pursuits for well, technically it's the 7th of January is when I was getting ready to do this, but it's now after midnight here on the East Coast, so it's technically the 8th, but we'll just call it for 7th because it's still that way for of the time zones, maybe 7. So, going to focus today on some possible uncomfortable things that you might find in family history. I have done a lot of research in the past couple of weeks using the holiday break. Obviously, I'm back home in my home studio in Lorton, Virginia today, but after 2 weeks in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, spend time with family. Did a lot of family history research in that time, and I'm going to cover some of it today. But most of what I'm going to talk about is uh, what I mentioned was listed in the title here: uncomfortable insinuations on the family tree. So let's go ahead and get started with talking about that main thing. Remember, of course, this podcast is brought to you not only by StreamYard for streamlining it, yep, that corner, but also we're supported by a merch store on TeePublic. You can sign up using the link below for your own merch store, t.pub/link/ace21. Or, of course, use our link below to check out Sticker Mule, get hundreds of great items with your branded artwork on there, your company brand, whatever you'd like to do promote. I've got, I think I've got 11 by 17 poster that just came from them on a great deal, free shipping. I've got 28 by 50 poster coming. And I see I believe the deal this week was clear stickers. Yep, 3 inch by 3 inch clear stickers, $29 for 50 with free shipping. That's normally a $75 value, not even without including shipping. So, some great deals from Sticker Mule. Check out the link in the description below and save with that. As always, if you have questions for me, you can find me on Tumblr, sonofswift.tumblr.com, or you can email me seibhain@gmail.com. That's Shovlin in Gaelic at gmail.com. Not an easy thing. That's why I write it out for you. But now to dive into something that I did put on the Tumblr because I actually was updating it during the past 2 weeks. And that was the strange case of the wrong Elizabeth Thompson. Now, for the past month, I have been doing a lot of family history research. And most of that really typified in the past couple weeks. Let's see where. There it is. And yeah. So first, let me go ahead and share that what I was working on was this chart. I tried to show it on camera last week, but it didn't quite show up because I was down in the corner here. But this is a family history chart that was homemade. I was had been planning to do this for my brother and his wife after talking to his wife's parents at Thanksgiving, and I just kind of didn't think through getting the poster. Went to Michael's the day after Christmas and hoping that they would have, because they used to have a poster display like Walmart and Michael's both used to have posters that you could buy for decorate your room or your classroom, your dorm room, whatever. And neither of them had them anymore. Michael's would have a genealogy chart in theirs. I looked before I went, and it did list that they had genealogy stuff, but it would have to be ordered ahead of time. Well, rather than try to scramble to find one, and maybe drive for miles until I found something at Staples or something, I decided to make my own using a piece of poster board from Michaels, and this was a 28 by 22 sheet of poster board that looked like a white painted fence, and which actually worked really well as far as I was concerned with the motif and the overall design aspect of my brother's home. So what I then did was I took a picture of a chart that went back multiple generations that would fill that space. And what you see here is the work on that chart. So it involved a lot of time. It was a real effort getting the names filled in and then glued on. At first, I was going individual, but then once I got into the farther back generations, the great grandparents, the great great grandparents, started putting it on in blocks, which made it a lot easier. There was, of course, getting it sized right and everything. Didn't have it done in time for Christmas, obviously, if I bought it right after Christmas, but it is done now. Finished it up by this time last week, and now we go to them and hopefully be something that they will enjoy and be able to share with their kids and with their parents, with her parents, and seeing that whole picture of the family history. It was amazing to consider in a month's time. When you look at this picture here, this whole section here that I'm highlighting here is everything I learned about my sister-in-law's family in 1 month. Now, of course, there's some missing information there. There's a grandparent that's missing. But all of that I was able to find since Thanksgiving, thanks to some of the things available on Ancestry, thanks to some of the things I've used otherwise, and Find a Grave, and just the things I've learned in years of genealogy research, putting together this gift that took a bit more time than I planned, but it's all about the effort. Oh, getting notifications that are popping up on the screen. So while I was working on this project, I did quick search onto obviously not only did I have to finish filling in my sister-in-law's family, but I also had to double check things on my family. And that's what led to the discovery of the wrong Elizabeth Thompson. So now Elizabeth Thompson was married to my maternal grandfather, great-great-grandfather Samuel Preston Dunn. So seen here on the tree, it's my mom's family, the Johnsons, her mother, Wilmer Jean Dunn, father Hobart Earl Dunn, my great-grandfather, his parents, Samuel Preston Dunn and Elizabeth Jane Thompson. Now, if I would have showed you this chart last week, it would have had much different information listed here for Elizabeth J. Thompson. And that's because I had the wrong information. I had gone off of the 1880 census. She was born in 1870. So it would make sense that her first census would be the 1880. And of course, we don't have the 1890 to tie it together. So I found a Lizzie Thompson born that was 9 years old or so in the 1880 census. And the parents were listed as J.G. Thompson and one other. I'm going to go back to the plot to show it. So yes, J.C. Thompson and Mary Thompson. I tracked them down during my research to J.C. being James Chrysostom. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong because I've never seen that as a name, let alone a middle name. Hopefully, that's his mother's maiden name. Please don't tell me that the family thought up that name for him. But that led to the Wards as the parents. So I started doing research into the Wards to try to fill out that part of the tree a little bit more, and I found a bunch of Find a Grave errors. And I went through using my Find a Grave access to fix that. Her parents were Michael Ward and Elizabeth O'Neill. I fixed a bunch of problems on that family, Find a Grave entries, and everything was looking up good until then there was something that was just odd about Elizabeth Thompson. And then turns out there was, trying to go back on her father, I found the 1870 census, which included a 1 month old Lizzie, which meant she was a year older than I thought, which I had as 1871. Now, as you can see on the chart now, it's 1870. But I thought, and I had talked more about finding Elmira Grimm, who was found previously. So then I tracked down her death certificate. I thought that was odd. Her death certificate would list her by her maiden name, but not entirely out of the ordinary. So this is a death certificate that showed her under the name of Elizabeth Thompson. And yeah, typically death certificate will list you under your married name. So that was... Oh, did I not? Oh, I thought I saved that death certificate as a show, but okay. So that showed Elizabeth Jane Thompson, and it also, those listed her as unmarried, which was odd because she had been married for many years to my great great grandfather, Samuel Preston Dunn. So that meant doing a little bit more searching, just to check. Also, I noticed the death date of 1948. Now, my mom was born in the early 1950s, and she remembered her grandmother, Elizabeth Jane Thompson, her great grandmother, and how her grandfather was his grandchild, was her child, and just remembering how she was around them. And so, if my mom was born in the early 1950s, her dying in 1948 didn't work out. And of course, yes, the unmarried. So I went back and double checked and found out that yes, I had the wrong Elizabeth Jane Thompson. Now, I was able to track her down in the proper 1880 census. And that is listed here with a John H, a daughter Ida M, daughter FEM, son William, and there, of course, is Elizabeth J at 9 years old in the 1880 census. So there we go. We have a father's name, John H, not JC, John H. And this actually tracks with the information I found on previously. 1880, adding up. It's been on June 1880 in Spring Hill Township, Fayette County, whereas the other one was actually in Allegheny County, which didn't make sense with how the family was lining up. So then came the next issue of, okay, now checking her father. And that brought up the 1870 census. Now here we have John Thompson, his wife Frances, keeping home, their children Ida and Effie, Mary, and William. So that matches up with those I saw in the 1880 census. And this was, of course, taken in August of 1870. But note that for the 1870 census, they asked the name of every person whose place of abode on the first day of June was in this family. So any children born after June 1st would not be included in the 1870 census, which tracks with what I ended up finding about Elizabeth Jane Thompson. Now, here, of course, is the ancestry page from it showing John Thompson living in Spring Hill, Fayette, Pennsylvania, post office Masontown, and wife Frances. I was able to track down this being a Frances Thompson. That would be John's wife. Shows her here as a widow, being born in 1845, getting her parents' names, William Blair and Nancy Donham. We find Elizabeth Jane Dunn's proper death certificate, listing her as widowed as well. The spouse being S.P. Dunn, Samuel Preston Dunn, by getting the father's name, John Thompson, and the mother's proper name, Frances Blair. So now I was certain these are Elizabeth Jane Thompson's family. So now let's try to track down more. Now, as I showed you on the tree here, I was able to find the Blairs. That death certificate gave me William and Nancy Donham. A little bit more work found me William's parents, James Blair and Margaret Laughlin. But you notice it didn't give me anything for John H. Thompson. Now, Ancestry gives me the helpful hint of a possible parent, which you may not be able to read through the scrubbing here, the fogging up, but it says Elizabeth Unknown, UNK for unknown last name. So it wanted me to believe that John had his mother was Elizabeth, No idea where that information came from, so I wasn't about to accept that. I didn't want to expect a mother's name without having a father to connect it to. So mystery continues. Now we know that he was born in 1844 from surmising his about birth date from the 1870 and 1880 census. It's odd. Of course, we don't have the 1890 to check against, and we know he had been gone prior to 1918 when Francis died. So that meant we had to do a bit more. I had to do a bit more searching in order to find the information on John H. Thompson. So that then leads me to, of course, the logical choice of 1870. That would then mean to find the 1860 census. And here, of course, is the ancestry find for John Thompson living in Fayette County. There were actually two of them, but one of them was very clearly to a different family that Thompson that unfortunately perished in the Civil War. This is another John Thompson. And realized that this was a bit of a dead end because here in the 1860 census, he is shown as a helping hand on a farm in 1860, the Swearingen's farm in Fayette County. The birth date is close, but the interesting thing being the race, mulatto. Now, at the time, commonly when you hear the term mulatto nowadays, first of all, it's not commonly said, it's not an accepted term. And see, where is the. Here is the 1860 census with the Swearingens. And there is John Thompson, 16, male, M for mulatto. Now, at the time that this census was being filled out, mulatto had a pretty wide definition because it could mean having any mixture of a black person with a white person, or what was called miscegenation. That didn't mean that Thompson's father was white. And it could not necessarily meant that Thompson's father was white and mother was black. It could have been grandmother was black, great grandmother was black, great great grandmother is black. And this is Western Pennsylvania, but not the deep South. But there was still the issue of some people looking down on the African American race and considering the so called one drop rule. So you have someone who's listed in the 1860 census as a mulatto. And it's 1860 when slavery was still legal. Now, Pennsylvania had banned slavery even back into the 1700s, but once you get farther west, maybe the rules are a little bit less enforced. They had a 16-year-old boy working on their farm. Not saying officially that he was there, that he was a indentured servant or slave, but that's kind of what it's looking like here. Now I see here an Elizabeth Hardin, age 25. If that they're trying to insinuate that Elizabeth, well, she's listed here as white. Elizabeth was the mother. That seems unlikely because she would have been 9 at the time that John was born. I don't want to focus on that too much. So here we have the possible question: is this my great 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 grandfather? Was he listed in the 1860 census as mulatto, only to be listed as white in every subsequent census? It's possible. If it is a distant relation that was African American, that maybe it wasn't as noticeable in the years going on, whether or not he was white or of descent. I've done my DNA testing and not found any reference to that. But then, of course, I am several generations down, and it depends on how the DNA is passed on. So there it is. That's my uncomfortable insinuation on the family tree. Right now, I don't know enough about John Thompson, but whether or not this is that John Thompson. Shows here, born in Pennsylvania, 16 years old in 1860, enlisted as mulatto. And it seems very likely that this is the same John Thompson that would be my great-great-great-grandfather. So fixed a problem on the tree, but in doing so found a slightly more, say, unsavory possibility on the tree. So you're going to find that when doing family history. I think that was an episode of Family Guy where Peter found out that his ancestor was a slave that was actually the slave of his wife's family, and that he received reparations, a check from his father-in-law for their time and service to his family. Obviously that was done for laughs and all of the negative stereotypes as well, but number of things can come up from there. So you never know what you're going to find in doing your family history. You never know what kind of things you're going to find. And when you're doing family history research, and especially visiting with family, you can find all kinds of interesting things, like, say, this picture of my parents in the 70s when they were not long after they were first married. So nice little thing finding them, being able to show them here. I think they said this was Christmas 1973. So just take a second to say thank you to my parents, not only for this past couple of weeks of having us as their guests, but also everything they've given me in life. And I wouldn't be here without them, and my family history research is not so much to benefit me and my children, but also to show them their lives and where they came from. All right, so that's your wrapping up the main things of a story today. I already covered the ads, so it is now time for the surname spotlight. So going over to my Google account. Of course, each week I get updates on any news stories involving mine and my ex-wife's family. So we start with the Angevines, as always. First up, Creek Powerlifters Shine and Weekend Event. Doesn't list anything here, but I'm guessing one of those Creek Powerlifters is an Angevine, or maybe the coach. Memorial Honor Tree in Lewiston Sun Journal. Not sure about there. Art Talk, San Anselmo, California. Guest speaker Alvaro Angevine. Present the works of the MacArthur Foundation Award winner Carol Walker. Genesee Valley Penny Saver Catherine Angevine receives the Parrington Historical Society's Volunteer of the Year Award. Congratulations, Catherine. We have an obituary for Mary Angevine from 2020 in Legacy. We have Leon Angevine in the NFL, professional football. We have an obituary for Dale Angevine from 2018. Charlotte Angevine on Facebook. Scarlett Angevine, a actress and listed on Project Casting, based in Wilmington, North Carolina. A range of practical skills and experience. We have Ontario Assistant Crown Attorney at the Attorney General in 2006 in Canada, Donald Angevine. And we have hashtag Angevine Landschaft. I'm not sure what's going on there. And then Zoe, again, from previous weeks. Aaron Angevine on TikTok. Mission Locale Angevine. On Para Ensemble. The Micro Oma. Then TikTok video from Aaron Angevine and another TikTok video from Aaron Angevine. So that's where the Angevines are in the news this week. Going over to the Shovlins. Sports Illustrated, once again, a reference of Andrew Shovlin with Mercedes and Hamilton Group. We have Hen Weekend's Katrina Shovlin talks about appearing on Dragon's Den. Andrew Shovlin, Mercedes. Andrew Shovlin. Katrina Shovlin on Dragon's Den. Mercedes. Katrina. It's just back and forth between the two of them. Well, here's Andrew back to back. Death notice of a Hugo, Melly, and Ardara Donegal. And yes, that's the Seamus Shovlin and Sons funeral directors in Donegal. Then we have obituary for Lorraine Davidson Webster, predeceased by her sister Helen Shovlin. We have a photo by Wayne Shovlin in Tampa International Airport. A photo by Alyssa Shovlin on Instagram of a Silver Bell Winery. Warren Andrew Shovlin, Shovlin Mattress Factory, posting on Instagram. The Katina Shovlin Chicken Hotel. Simon Dallin X talking about Andrew Shovlin. Team Shovlin at Boardman, Ohio. Musical artist Jamie Shovlin. Kim Shovlin on YouTube. See a garden shed for sale in County Dublin, so maybe a Shovlin involved with that. Jim Shovlin on X. Talking Sports powered by McMahon's Best One, DC. Okay. And then search results for Andrew Shovlin and more of Zoe's work. Well, not Zoe's work, but, same field. And then we have a TikTok from Alyssa Shovlin. I was thinking I was going to see my doppelganger showing up. There is another Keith Shovlin. He's based in St. Louis now as a realtor, and he popped up in my alerts earlier in the week, but didn't make it to the news release. So, oh well. Well, that finishes up what I want to talk about. Now, I did want to partially talk about resolutions. I'm not a fan of making firm New Year's resolutions each year. I do have goals from year to year that I would like to achieve, and obviously when I started 2024, I didn't aim to be doing a genealogy video podcast by the end of the year. This was something that came up later. But you never know what might come about, and I do have a plan, and it's something I want to talk about next week because there's a lot to go into it, and I don't want to drone on for longer than, well, we're coming up on 30 minutes, which would be actually relatively brief for this series. But I'll talk more about it next week, talk about New Year's resolutions when it comes to genealogy. I will have to say, if it's in order to track down a certain number of family members or to clear certain brick walls, don't make resolutions that are impossible. Go try to keep them all in reach, something that's doable in a year. But for that, I am Keith F. Shovlin. Thank you for watching. Remember to check me out on Tumblr, sonofthesort.tumblr.com. As always, I'll try to be updating a bit more. You can email me, shovlin@gmail.com. Check out our sponsors, Sticker Mule, TeePublic, and our merch store, t.public.com/store/Swift. And of course, also check out StreamYard. Links in the description below. If you have any questions, feel free to leave comments below. If you have your own possible uncomfortable family history things, I did find when doing some family history research that if you have a family that continues to live, all of its members are the same small town, that there's a possibility of distant cousins. It happens. But we're not going to go into that more tonight. But thank you all for watching. Good luck in your own research. And as always, I'm here to give you advice, to share what I found of my family, and to hopefully guide you on your pathway of knowledge. Have a good night and Happy New Year, everyone.